Hey, good morning everybody. It's Bobby. I hope you had a great weekend. All is wonderful here at the club at Horseshoe Bay. Let me ask you a question that is asked so often. That is, what is your current handicap and what is your goal? And most people have an answer that's something like this. Well, I'm a 16, and like most people, I'm not satisfied, but I think I could be a 9. That's my goal, to be a 9. And the next question, the follow-up, is what reveals the point of today's discussion, and that is, okay, so you've got 7 shots you want to drop. How are you going to do it? And it's not that people are not willing to work for it and to drop those 7 shots. The problem in most cases is the misguided work ethic, the answer to that question, what are you going to do to improve on your score? Because most people say, well, if I could just get 30 more yards off the tee, that should do it. That will leave me with a short iron into a lot of the par 4s where now I'm having a hard time getting 2 and 2 at all. I can maybe get on some of those par 3s with a short iron also. It'd be great to be able to drive it around the dog leg. If it's not that answer, then I'll hear someone say, well, I'd like to hit my 4 iron higher and be able to draw it at will. In other words, most of the time, people will have some answer that has to do with their full swing. And I've just got to tell you something right now. If you've got 7 shots to drop, or more, perhaps you'd like to get even better than that, you're not going to be able to do it with your full swing. And it's certainly not in any reasonable amount of time. And let me say this to begin with, and that is that I'll concede for just a moment that the short game is only equally as important as the full swing. Let me make that concession right now. I don't really believe that. In fact, I believe that the putting itself is probably as important as the full swing. But I'm going to lump them all together and say putting, chipping, pitching, and bunker play all combined, those short game areas, are only equally as important as the full swing. Now, if that's the case, you might say, well, then you should devote an equal amount of time to your full swing and an equal amount of time to your short game. But what this person who believes that is failing to understand is that they are ignoring the low-hanging fruit. Now, what am I talking about there? Well, to illustrate this point, let me take you back to about 1997 or 8 when I first got into the golf business. And I worked at this driving range in the mountains of North Carolina. Some of you have heard me talk about Joe. That was the man for whom I worked. He owned the driving range, and on Saturdays we'd get really busy. And so busy that his son Sparky would have to go out there and pick up balls, and no faster than he could get them and come clean them. There'd be people lined up ready for golf balls. It was really almost perfect in that way, that if he went out there and picked them in a hurry, he could get back and everybody, we could dispense balls to everybody. We'd have enough balls. But if he was slow at all, we were lagging behind, and without golf balls in your driving range business, you're out of business. And so I remember early on, this is before Sparky really learned his lesson, I heard Joe go, Bobby, is Sparky almost done out there? I said, no, he's still out there. He's along the fence line. And Joe looked out there, and here Sparky was going around the outer edge, the perimeter of the driving range, picking up balls. And Joe says, are you kidding me? Sparky comes rolling in, and his dad said, Sparky, I want you to stay in the middle of that driving range. And he says, well, you know, you told me that after my shift today, I'm going to have to pick up balls along the fence line with the hand picker. I thought I'd go ahead and get a head start on those along the wall to see to it that I don't have so much to do at the end of my shift. And he said, Sparky, I am transmitting and you are not receiving. What I just told you is you need to go out in the middle of the range where 95% of the balls are, so that you can, in an efficient use of time, get those balls back to us in a hurry so we can clean them and dispense them to our customers. And in other words, he was saying, go where you can make progress in a short amount of time. Now, I conceded a moment ago, and let me tell you how this is analogous. I conceded a moment ago that the full swing and the short game may only have equal importance. But here's the thing. The short game takes so much less time to develop. Now, let's just say that your goal is to become 8 on a scale of 1 to 10. I want to be an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10 in full swing. Or I want to be an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10 in the short game. Well, those are both worthwhile goals and both equally important, as we've already established in this hypothetical situation. But it's only going to take you 1/5 or 1/6 the amount of time to develop the same skill in short game as in the full swing. So that's what I'm talking about with low-hanging fruit. Go where progress can be made most quickly. If you want to get 7 shots off your score, you can do that. But you're not going to be able to do it with full swing near as quickly as you can by attacking your short game. Now, there are lots of things, obviously, that you can do. You can go out there and just sit there and say, I'm not leaving the spot out on the putting green until I make 5 in a row from 6 feet away. That'll take longer than what you think. But it'll be well worth the time, and you'll become addicted to it. And in fact, you'll develop your own games after that. You go, you know what, that's not challenging enough for me. and it'll take on an interesting form. Or maybe you want to sit there and you say, okay, I got a pile of balls. I'm not going to leave this spot until I chip 10 in total. It may take me a while, but I'm going to stay focused and single-minded about this task until I chip in 10 balls. And after that, maybe I'll go hit some full shots. Or maybe it's bunker play. I'm going to hit one to this higher level up here, and then I'm going to hit one to this lower level. One high, one low, one high, one low, for 10 consecutive times. If I ever miss, I have to start over. And so the whole point is to find a way to get the short game to be interesting to you, so that it takes on an interesting and intriguing form, so that you'll stay with it and put in the due diligence that will actually pay off, that will serve as the low-hanging fruit, so that you can develop your short game in a way that will actually lower your handicap. And one more thing, this has a far-reaching effect beyond just getting the ball in the hole from around the green. And that is, it guides you and it empowers you and allows you to make smart decisions apart from the short game. And let me give you an example. Let's just say that I'm the type of person who doesn't have a short game, and I know I don't. I'm trying to avoid having to hit short shots, which, by the way, is unavoidable. But I'm 50 yards from the green and I'm kind of in the trees. And the only way to get on that green is to hit a little shot that goes over this branch and under that branch and it hits softly. It's almost an impossible shot. If I don't believe in my short game, if I don't see that I could just knock it out sideways in front of the green, chip it on and make the putt, if I don't believe that, I'm likely going to make the foolish decision of going ahead and trying desperately to go through the trees, because I think that's my only chance. I'm not going to go that way, because after all, going that way involves chipping, and I'm no good at chipping. And so what happens? I end up hitting that branch. It goes farther in the woods, and instead of making a 5, I make a 9 or a 10 and go, man, I just wish I hit my driver better because I hit it in the woods over there. That wasn't the problem. The problem is you didn't have a strength in the short game, and therefore you weren't willing to play to that strength. And so what am I getting at, folks? Take an honest look in the mirror and examine your own practice habits and see if they're really addressing your goal. If your goal is to hit the ball 30 yards farther, then go for it. If that's your goal, then there's nothing wrong with that. Never will I discourage someone for wanting to achieve more distance if that's all that's on their mind. But if the goal is lower scores, then that might not be the quickest route there. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for tuning in with me today. I look forward to seeing you next week.